Shalom, Esther Githu-Yuat. It's Monday, May 30th. This is Africa 54.
The DRC accuses Rwanda of being behind the latest M23 rebel offensive, which Kigali denies. Meanwhile, the UN says more than 72,000 people were displaced last week in the DRC as Kinshasa and the M23 slugged it out. Sudan lifted its state of emergency Sunday, which coup leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan imposed last October in a bid to keep order in the streets. General al-Burhan's decree also called for the release of scores of people swept up since the emergency order was issued. U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden spent Sunday in Uvalde, Texas, to meet with families and first responders in the wake of last Tuesday's assault rifle massacre of 19 school children and 2 teachers. All this and much more on today's Africa 54.
We begin in Central Africa, where tensions between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are raising concerns. According to the United Nations, more than 72,000 people have been displaced in 1 week due to fighting between the Congolese army and the M23 rebel group. Up to 7,000 have taken refuge across the border in neighboring Uganda. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
On Sunday, Senegalese President and Africa Union Chairman Macky Sall said he was gravely concerned by the tension between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The fighting has forced nearly 70,000 people out of their homes, and some 7,000 have taken refuge across the border in neighboring Uganda. In a tweet, I quote, "I'm gravely concerned about the rise in tension between Rwanda and the DRC. I appeal to the two countries for calm and dialogue for a peace resolution of the crisis with the support of the regional mechanism and the African Union." Unquote. Rwanda said over the weekend that 2 of its soldiers were being held captive by rebels in the DRC and accused the government authorities backing the group responsible. Similarly, the DRC accuses Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels who attacked a town 20 kilometers from the city of Goma, forcing thousands of civilians to flee earlier this week. The M23, a rebellion claiming to represent the interests of ethnic Tutsis in eastern Congo, is staging its largest offensive since a 2012 to 2013 insurrection that captured a vast area of the countryside. Residents of Goma weighed in on the actions taken by their government against Rwanda.
Although it is late, the measures taken by the Congolese government are to be encouraged, but it is not enough. We need to go further than that. Rwanda is attacking the Congo, and the government must recognize this with clear and precise words and not look for verbal gymnastics.
On Sunday, Rwanda Air announced it was cancelling all flights to DRC after the Congolese authorities suspended the carrier and summoned Kigali's ambassador over what it alleges is Rwanda's support for M23 rebels.
As our country has decided to suspend Rwanda air flights, I think if other countries would take the same measures, Rwanda will understand that all states know its game and that it's now time for it to stop and for us all.
Eastern Congo has experienced a near constant conflict since 1996, when Rwanda and other neighboring states invaded the country to pursue Hutu militias who had participated in the 1994 genocide. According to the UN figures, Congo has 5.6 million internally displaced persons, the most in Africa. There are at least 1.9 million in North Kivu alone, the province where the current fighting is going on. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
For more on the Democratic Republic of Congo's government reaction, here is Anastasie Tudiesh from Kinshasa.
One word can sum up the weekend in Kinshasa on a social political front: mobilization. On the political front, the government has announced on Friday a series of decisions, the three main ones being the M23 is now considered a terrorist organization and as a consequence is excluded from the Nairobi peace talks, a process started a month ago as an attempt to reach ceasefire in the eastern part of the DRC. Number two, all Rwandan air flights have been cancelled on the Congolese territory. Number three, Ambassador Vincent Karega has been summoned to be notified of DRC's strong disapproval on Rwandan positions. On the social front, over 20 civil society organizations have decided to gather today in Kinshasa for a protest walk to show support to the military and, I quote, the Congolese fellows experiencing atrocities in the conflict zones, end of quote. Last but not least, one hashtag is trending among Congolese Twitters: Rwanda is killing, to share updates and opinions on what most consider here as an open war. Anastasie Tudiesh for VOA News, Kinshasa.
To West Africa now, where Nigeria has confirmed 21 cases of monkeypox since the start of the year, with one death reported according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The health agency said out of 61 suspected cases of monkeypox reported since January 21st, had been confirmed with one death, a 40-year-old man. The cases were reported in 9 states and the federal capital, Abuja. Nigeria's CDC says there has been no evidence of any or unusual transmission of the virus, nor changes in its clinical manifestation documented. Monkeypox are usually mild viral infection, is endemic in the African countries of Cameroon, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Nigeria. But it has caused a global alarm after more than 200 suspected and confirmed cases of the virus were detected in at least 19 countries since early May, mostly in Europe. A remote corner of South Africa has been gripped by fear after 11 elderly people.
The Nigerian CDC made the announcement in a statement on Sunday. It said the 21 cases were from 61 samples polled from across 9 states of the country, including Abuja, since the beginning of the year. 6 of the cases were reported in May, including one casualty with underlying comorbidity. NCDC said more investigations are being carried out at a national reference lab in Abuja, but that the cases were caused by West Africa clade monkeypox virus. The last case of monkeypox recorded in the African nation was in 2019. But the zoonotic disease raised a global suspicion this month after more than 250 cases were confirmed and around 120 still suspected in at least 23 countries, mostly in Europe and the Middle East. The World Health Organization says no death has been reported elsewhere. The Nigerian CDC has said there has been no evidence of an unusual trait associated with the new cases, but some citizens are getting worried.
We are not even recovered from the last year COVID-19, or what do they call coronavirus. So we have not even recovered for the damages that it caused us. And we are still hearing about the monkeypox. So please, we are pleading for the federal government, those that are in position to do something about it.
The level of communication within the government and the people is still very low. So it is important that the government use every avenue, every medium to tell the people that monkeypox is real.
Monkeypox is common in African countries like the DRC, Central African Republic, Cameroon, and Nigeria, causing fever, headaches, muscle aches, and exhaustion. The World Health Organization says most of the reported cases have no established travel links to an endemic area. NCDC has activated a monkeypox emergency operations center to strengthen in-country preparedness and contribute to the global response. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
To Southern Africa now, where a remote corner of South Africa has been gripped by fear after 11 elderly people were brutally murdered, earning the village a disturbing nickname, the Village of Death. Located in the Eastern Cape, the village has recorded 18 murders in the space of a year. 11 elderly people were found brutally murdered in their homes. In another incident, a local resident, Nobogile Fila, found her mother and aunt in a pool of blood in their home. The women were killed in the early hours of the morning, and no one heard their cries because their houses are far from each other. Community leader Jinkaya Koki has been leading discussions with social workers and government officials as the trial against the alleged perpetrators gets underway in a month's time.
I am reluctant to say that it's money, because after the killings, when people searching the house, they would find the money in the house. Now, you then ask yourself, what is it that they want from this person that they killed?
South Africa is one of the world's most violent countries outside a war zone, with a murder committed every 20 minutes on average. Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan on Sunday lifted a state of emergency imposed since last year's military coup. According to a statement from the ruling council, the order was made to prepare the atmosphere for a fruitful and meaningful dialogue that achieves stability for the transitional period. Sunday's decision came after a meeting with senior military officials recommending the state of emergency be lifted and people detained under an emergency law be freed. Also on Sunday, the trial of 4 people accused of fatally stabbing a senior officer opened in Khartoum. General Ali Barima was killed in January during anti-coup protests. Dozens, including the policeman's family, protested outside the court, demanding justice, while hundreds of protesters rallied in front of the courthouse to demand the release of the defendants.
To us, the street is available and we are present in court, on the streets and everywhere. 3, 4, or 10 people may fall, but we will not be ruled through fabricated charges, and we will not be ruled by murder.
Sudan has been reeling from deepening unrest since Burhan led the October 25th coup, appending a fragile transition following the 2019 ouster of President Omar al-Bashir. Now, for more on the latest development in Sudan, I'm joined live via Skype from Washington, D.C. by Nabil Biagio. He is a VOA in Focus, South Sudan in Focus program. Nabil, welcome back to Africa 54.
Good to be with you, Esther.
Let's start by finding out what exactly does this lifting of the emergency mean for the Sudanese people?
It's the lifting came 7 months after the state of emergency was imposed, which was a direct result of the military coup that took place on October the 25th. What it means, as you can see from the report you just ran, it doesn't mean much. People are still out on the streets protesting, demanding a return to civilian rule, demanding justice for the people who have been murdered, and demanding the release of all political detainees, and demanding that the military should go back to the barracks. Besides lifting the state of emergency, I must say, the military released dozens of detainees yesterday on Sunday. And also the Security and Defense Council recommended that they allow Al Jazeera Live news channel to resume broadcasting, which was shut down by the government.
As we reported, Nabil, there's an ongoing case of 4 accused of killing a police officer. Do we also know if the police officers accused of killing dozens of protesters during the ongoing crisis where the civilians are demanding a civilian-led government are also going to be on trial?
Security forces, including police, the National Security Service, the Rapid and Support Forces under General Hemeti, Mohammed Hamdan Daglo. All these security forces have been accused of killing at least almost 100 protesters, civilians, since the coup took place in October. That's according to estimates by the Sudanese Doctors Committee. Now, on the day that this police officer was allegedly killed by protesters, a civilian protester was also killed and scores of others injured. As recent as Saturday, just a day before the state of emergency was lifted, 2 protesters were killed south of Khartoum in Al-Kalakla, where the United Nations itself had to come out and condemn it, call it appalling. Now, there is a lot of killing on the side of the protesters and no accountability. The military authorities promised months ago investigations and to hold people found in breach of human rights or, and other egregious violations accountable, but the protesters continue to demand justice and accountability and say they have seen none so far.
Nabil, thank you very much for your insight. Nabil Biagio is a VOA reporter with a South Sudan in Focus program.
Thank you.
African leaders met Saturday to discuss efforts to fight a growing extremist threat and push back against a recent round of military coups on the continent. The Summit on Terrorism and Unconstitutional Change was organized by the African Union and is being hosted in Malabo, the capital of Equatorial Guinea, by its leader Teodoro Obiang Nguema Basogo. Saturday's opening ceremony was addressed by President Obiang, Angola's President Joao Lourenço, and Chairperson of African Union Commission Musa Faki Mahamat. After progress at promoting democracy, Africa has seen recent coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea, and military rule in Chad. A host of terror groups operate across many countries, including the Islamic State group, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and Boko Haram. Mahamat called on African nations to make better use of their own troops in combating the terror threat facing Africa and so reduce any dependency on forces from other countries. And here's a roundup of African stories you may have missed. Around 100 people have died in clashes between gold miners in northern Chad, according to the defense minister. Violence broke out on May 23rd at Kouri Bugudi near the Libyan border, sparked by a dispute between 2 people, which had degenerated. In Senegal, police have arrested 3 people in connection with a fire at a hospital in which 11 babies died, according to trade union sources. The 3 are a midwife, a nurse, and the head of the hospital's human resources department. In Central Africa, suspected Islamist militants killed 15 civilians in an attack on a village in Northwest Democratic Republic of Congo, according to a human rights group and a local official. Fighters believed to be members of the Allied Democratic Forces stormed in the village of Bulongo in North Kivu province after dark on Sunday. In North Africa, according to a United Nations report released on Monday, civilian deaths and rights abuses attributable to the Malian army surged in the first quarter of 2022. Jihadists remain the biggest source of violence against civilians, but there was an exponential rise in deaths and other abuses linked to the armed forces. As always, we're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on voaafrica.com. Coming up, we'll have a roundup of the BAL sports that ended up this weekend in Kigali, Rwanda. But first, let's check in with Haiti Adams on what's coming up on Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, persistent drought and overwhelming floods are wreaking havoc across the world, including the African continent, threatening not only livelihoods, but the very fabric of society. How can Africa best deal with this radically changing reality? Join me, Haiti Adams, and my guests as we explore the effects of climate change in African countries and the initiatives underway to mitigate it.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society. facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science, and technology.
City, rural, educated, or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden met with grieving families and first responders in Uvalde, Texas, Sunday, visiting the site of a school shooting that claimed the lives of 19 children and 2 teachers Tuesday. Michael Sullivan reports that residents are asking the nation's leaders to find ways to stop the violence.
A visit to the memorial to the victims outside Robb Elementary School, where the 18-year-old gunman barricaded himself in a classroom with students, carrying an assault rifle with more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Then the Bidens attended a service at a Catholic church, where local residents had attended a public service earlier in the day. They encouraged one another in the face of the tragedy that has touched everyone in this Texas town. Several later spoke with VOA about what they hope to see from the president and Congress.
Maybe some gun control, maybe some, definitely mental health. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I'm an avid gun owner myself.
It may be time, he says, for some added restrictions. Another gun owner agrees, saying things need to change.
You know, you're not safe in school. My wife's a teacher at the high school, and I feel bad for her now. You know what I mean? And you don't know what's going to happen anymore. So if it happens here, it can happen anywhere.
Another churchgoer says her faith gives her strength, but she hopes to see action from people in government.
We plead with them and all our representatives to listen to the people that are losing their babies. It's so important that we change the laws.
But as they spoke, the National Rifle Association, a gun rights advocacy group and powerful lobbying organization, was finishing its convention in Houston, Texas. The group is opposed to restrictions on assault weapons and is politically influential in states like Texas. As the Bidens wrapped up their visit, mourners in the town square continued to pay their respects, lighting candles, singing hymns, leaving flowers and written messages to remember the victims, and hoping for an end to the violence. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Uvalde, Texas.
Monday, May 30th, is a federal holiday here in the United States. The last Monday in May is observed as Memorial Day, a day to honor the men and women who have died while serving in the country's military. Many Americans mark the day by visiting war memorials or visiting cemeteries and placing flowers on graves. In Washington, motorcyclists have been a regular feature of the Memorial Day observance. This year, the motorcyclists event is called Rolling to Remember and has expanded its mission to include increasing awareness of the suicide crisis among veterans. There are many family gatherings and picnics of Memorial Day, as it's widely recognized as the beginning of the summer season here in the United States. Now in our sports, US Monastir of Tunisia emerged the champions of Basketball Africa League Season 2 after an 83-72 victory over Petro di Luanda of Angola in the final game at the Kigali Arena in Rwanda on Saturday. Here is a recap of what happened on Saturday.
After falling to Zamalek of Egypt in the Season 1 final, Monastir faced a strong Petro team in Season 2 finals, with the Angolans taking an early lead, but Dixon responded with a three-pointer from the corner.
It's a beautiful response from Dixon.
Layani collected a pass from the Abate for a 100 dunk to keep Monastir close midway in the second quarter.
Imperial pass, and how about that for a beautiful score?
Petros Concalves answered with a three from the top of the key to keep the Angolans ahead.
Down to 1 second, but it doesn't matter.
But Monastir answered with their own 3 from Dixon to close the margin early in the fourth quarter.
It's gonna go! It's a beautiful triple there for Dixon.
Korea scored again to maintain Petro's lead late in the fourth quarter.
That is beautiful. That was poetry in motion.
Majok answered for Monastir with a dunk after a pass from Dixon.
He will do that all day, every day if he can.
Majok was a hero again for Monastir after a big block against Moreira as time was running out for the Angolan team. The final score 83-72, and as they say in Tunisia, Mabruk Monastir.
Tunisian Titans of US Monastir.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.
More and more, belligerents are intentionally destroying farms or blocking trade routes with the express purpose of causing people to starve. Ukraine is the world's 5th largest exporter of wheat and the 2nd largest exporter of sunflower oil. Russia has disrupted these staple crops by bombing civilian infrastructure, placing landmines in Ukrainian soil, and even deliberately and repeatedly damaging Ukrainian grain storage facilities, 6 by our latest count. And Russia's blockade of Ukrainian ports is stopping what food Ukraine has left from being exported to other countries in dire need. But these crises are not inevitable. In fact, we have seen how taking early and anticipatory action has helped prevent famine. We can save lives if we act early before the worst crises impacts are felt.